first thing that we get from opening up position is the fact that vegetarians survive in society, hence people can survive without animals. You don't think everyone is a vegetarian. So that argument is in and of itself not important. Then the Prime Minister says that the debate is about protectionism. We think that firstly, that the narrative of protectionism of animals is based on the fact, is not based on the fact that animals intrinsically have rights and deserve to live, but based on the fact that they have a utility to us as human beings, so we have to keep them alive. We think that the debate is not even about animal protectionism, but the debate is about an extension of animal protectionism to go up the fact that animals should have the same right as human beings to life and to pleasure. We think that the debate is an extension and not necessarily what they give us. Then on the bench, they argue that the metric for ascription of rights shouldn't be consciousness. We think very crucially, like Oji tells you, that in the instance of the baby, that we are certain that the baby is at the point going to develop into like a human being and have those rights. So we are certain of the fact that when he grows up, he's going to have those rights and will be able to be conscious of the fact that he has those rights. So as a society, what we have to do is to protect him up to the point that he can have and exercise those rights. But with animals, we are certain that they will never ever be able to exercise those rights. So that comparative is one that is principally flawed. Talking about what humans that have not had contact with technology, we think in that particular instance, the reason why we cannot abuse those people's rights is because they are biologically equivalent to us as human beings. And that is the metric for today, because they are humans and we are humans, so we have to respect the fact that they have moral agency and independence as human beings biologically. The opening half has missed some clarity, so we are going to be adding that. Now, we think that sentiments should not prevail over facts. That it is good to be sentimental sometimes, but we think very crucially that sentiments should never ever crowd out logic and our sense of reason. We think that biologically and scientifically, that humans are dominant, exemplified by how we coordinate our societies, exemplified by the fact that we can even use animals as a means to our own end. So it is a biological fact and a scientific fact that we are more superior. So we think that the sentiments are devoid of any particular logic and any particular reason in that particular instance. Now, what are the consequences of the narrative of proportionality of rights, of the fact that we want to apportion animals the same rights as human beings? Number one, you can't eat animals any longer because you can't kill them. Number two, you can't use them for sporting activities anymore. Number three, we can't get the resources that they have, milk, leather, and all those things. We think very crucially that this policy is going to affect global economies. It's going to radically change how our life operates. I just want you to register this in your mind about the very great effects, and then you will ask yourself at the end of my speech whether this is particularly worth it. Now, all this has been extensive material, but for positive matter, we think that the proportionality of rights in this particular instance is diametrically opposed to the interests of human beings. So animal rights are intrinsically diametrically opposed to the rights of human beings. Now, we think that to the extent where absolute respect for animals comes at the harmful cost of deprivation of humans and, like I told you, of the destruction of global economies, we think that it is absolutely regrettable. Now, we think very crucially that species are in a competition, that are in a constant competition, that the dominance of human species is arbitrary considered, but being that we have a higher level of moral agency, we think that the onus is on us to fight for our survival and even fight to frontier our own selfish ideals. That is very important to the debate. We think that the notion of proportionate rights of animals and humans is not properly thought out, and we think that equating the rights of animals with the rights of humans ignores the fact that, number one, that human species are more advanced in terms of socialization and technological development. That, number two, that human beings have moral agency. This is very important as extensive material. What does this particularly mean? It means that they have rights and they have responsibilities. Why is this particularly important? We think that this is important because rights do not come without responsibilities. The metric that opening government gives you is that rights cannot come without consciousness. That when a person is not conscious of his rights, then that person shouldn't have that particular right. We change the metric. We say from closing, we believe that rights come with responsibilities. And to the extent that you cannot exercise those responsibilities, then you do not have a claim to that particular right. You have a right to life as a human being. But that right also comes with the responsibility that society places on you not to kill another person. To the extent where we give animals rights, but we can't give them the responsibility not to kill, not to attack, or to live in a particular a social spectre, then we think that that is something that's going to be difficult because we can't coordinate animals, we can't organize them, then we can't give them rights because rights must come with responsibilities. Opening.
The same rights are placed on responsibilities. These animals have the responsibility of maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. So principally, why don't we give them rights?
That is not it. See, right, when you give the person a right to life, you are telling him also that he has a responsibility not to harm another person. We forget about the fact that you're protecting the ecosystem. Like, that is something that's very arbitrary. But in terms of allocation of rights, you must, as you have a right, that right comes with a responsibility. We think that the only reason for respect is symmetry. The only metric of respect of rights should be the symmetry of agency. What does this mean? We think that the might is right principle is only invalid when we are dealing with two parties of proportionate moral agencies. So that this is very, very, very crucial. The only reason why the might is right principle is invalid is when humans are dealing with humans, and that is particularly bad because we have the same proportionate moral agency. To the extent where we are dealing with humans and animals who are subliminal to us, then we think that that's something that's particularly valid in that instance. 3, we think that when you give rights, you must be able to restrict and control those who you give those rights within societies. Can we control animals? Can we restrict animals? The answer is no. They are self-governed by the might is right principle. Now, this is very crucial. We think very crucially that we must hold species by the standards that they set for themselves, and animals themselves also to the principle of might is right. If a lion sees a zebra, he goes and attacks that zebra because that lion is stronger than a zebra. We think that we should hold animals by the standards that they contain in their own societies. To the extent where animals believe in the might is right principle, then we have an obligation to uphold a particular relationship that they have with their societies and also treat them the same way. Animals understand the fact that might is right, and ultimately within species and within the fact that based on the fact that there's competition within species, then that principle is validated by the fact that they opt into that particular principle. We think that we must hold them by the same standard, and that is not intrinsically bad. The reason why humans move past the might is right principle is because of the fact that we all came together to form social contracts. We think very crucially that these sentiments are inimical to the animal rights movement because ultimately they essentialize the movement and they are very particularly extreme and are very harmful. Kunbi will analytically extend on that and is incredibly proud to propose.